Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today. I do truly appreciate it. And I want to talk about a book that I got in the mailbox from the Friendly Neighborhood Mail Lady and Goldsboro Books, a company in the United Kingdom. And I kind of dig their stuff. Number one, I like signed stuff. Signed is always better. And number two, the books published in the United Kingdom are sometimes different than the books published in the United States. So you get different cover art and stuff like that. It's variety is the spice of life, they say in France. However, this is an author named Thomas Olde Heuvelt, and he gets his books translated into English eventually, and now I've gotten one. And Thomas Olde Heuvelt is an author that I was introduced to by a fellow by the name of Paul Suntup of Suntup Editions, and he published a book called Hex. And I bought this book because it sounded really cool, and I got some really nice two different ones from Suntup. I've got the artist edition and the numbered edition. They're both signed and illustrated and really cool stuff. And I read Hex before I actually, once the rumor came out that it was going to be Hex by Thomas Olde Heuvelt, I read the book and I liked it. It was one that took me a little bit before I really felt like it hit its stride. And I remember specifically saying at about the 60-page mark, the book really kicked in for me. But before that, I started wondering if I was going to like it. At the end of the day, I loved that book. And I bought another book, Echo, a couple signed copies of Echo by Thomas Olde Heuvelt. And much to my shame, my eternal shame, I haven't read Echo yet. But there's another one that is out, and that is from Goldsboro Books. And when I saw that they had it for sale, I could not help. I could not resist. Couldn't stop myself to smash them buttons and get me a copy coming in. And like I have been trained through evolutionary whatever, how instincts kick in, I don't know, that kind of stuff, I learned to mash them buttons, order that thing, and then forget about it. And then one day it'll show up, or one day I'll get an email saying it's en route. And then I start waiting, where is it? But this one is here. I'd like to open it up, take a look, and see what it's all about. It's called Darker Days. And maybe I misremember. Maybe I do. There was some talk originally, when this book was originally being published in the native language, I think it was called November. And I remember thinking, well, I'm looking, that sounds interesting, and I wanted a copy. And then I didn't hear or think about it much for a while until I find out it's been translated into English, and it's been the name changed to Darker Days. And that makes sense. You're going to read a book, probably a horror book, called November. Well, that could be the greatest book of all time, but November doesn't really tell me anything that might make it seem like a horror book. However, Darker Days does. And sounds like a good idea. Although, the way I understand November, the plots, the month of November matters in the story. But Darker Days is something that might catch my attention, get me to think, oh, this might be a spooky story, a horror story, a scarer story. Yeah, so it's marketing. Marketing matters, sure enough. Most people don't write books for them not to sell, for people not to read them. So things you can do to get more people to read your book, to buy your book, probably are things that will be done. So a couple things. I've ordered a lot of books. Not a lot. I've ordered books from Goldsboro Books before, and I've got books on my shelf from them. Goldsboro Books is, the way I understand it, a bookstore in the United Kingdom. But they're big, important folks. In a way, they get publishers to make special editions for them, and sometimes they'll have extra features, a variety of things. Sometimes they'll be numbered, sometimes not, but there's a large variety of what you can expect from Goldsboro Books. You might get limited editions with stenciling and satin ribbon page markers, stuff like that. You might just get the normal, ordinary trade edition. You might get a signed trade edition. Such a variety. You got to keep an eye on what they're doing and what they got coming out. So this is the Bantam. See, Bantam. And the cover illustration is fantastic. But you can see right here, the book is shiny. And this is something that I like. See, I wrapped all of my dust jackets in a Brodart Adjust-A-Fold 3 dust jacket protector. I just do it to protect the dust jackets, because of years and years of books sitting on a shelf and removing them from the shelves, you typically will see the edges of the dust jacket start to wear and fray and tatter and show. I like these things. They keep my dust jackets tip top. They are shiny, and maybe you like that, maybe you don't, but it protected my stuff. I want it to be good for a long, long time. But the cover artwork on this right here just looks so good on darker days. Thomas Olde Heuvelt, they've done a fantastic job of making this book look like something I need to look deeper into. I need to find out. Best-selling author of Hex, The Debt Must Be Paid. No one builds agonizing tension like Thomas Olde Heuvelt. Darker Days is his best yet. That, according to Catriona Ward. And I'm going to read it and find out if I can take her word for it or not. But there is a lot of praise from Darker Days from folks like Catriona Ward, Mike Flanagan, Al Makatsu, Clay McLeod, Chapman, Eric LaRocca, A.G. Slatter, Nat Cassidy, Owen King. Some names that I think I've heard of. And we'll talk in a moment about the book, the story I haven't read, see what it's all about. But first I want to stretch this dust jacket out a little bit and let you see kind of what it looks like. But they did a fantastic job of making this thing look good. The dust jacket's wrapped in a protector, which I dig, and it saves me from having to do it myself. So the book, this particular one, I've told you they've got such a large variety. This is a trade edition book, and so it's built like a trade edition book. Although the materials are not, it's not true, not shabby. It's like you would expect on a trade edition book. A lot of the UK trade edition hardcovers, and a lot of the American ones as well, glued bindings. Just letting you know, this is what you get. Now it's British, UK. So I bought it in pounds, but with shipping to United States and the conversion and all that stuff, it cost me $43.56. Just FYI, that's what I paid. We got colored end papers that feel like end papers, but they're not plain Jane white. And then it's signed right here. It's not a special tipped-in signature page or anything like that. The page doesn't even indicate that it's been signed. I'm not complaining, just letting you know, because there's such a variety. There might be books like this that will be signed on a tipped-in page that'll say signed by the author or signed by Thomas Olde Heuvelt or whatever, and some might have a limitation. Just showing you what this is, so you'll know in case you are interested. But Thomas Olde Heuvelt has a beautiful signature. And it looks really good. You can't read it, but it looks really good. Seems like it would take a lot of work for me to fake that thing, I would think, or for anybody else to fake it. Penguin, Random House, UK. I'm looking to see how they indicate printing on here. So here it says, first published in Great Britain in 2025 by Bantam and imprint with Transworld Publishers, 001. And so just at a cursory glance, I feel like that indicates first printing, first edition. And I'll just, if I see anything in here, I'll show you what all I see. But Bird Street residents, there's a list of Bird Street residents and a map, looks like, of the neighborhood. And I haven't read this book, so I couldn't begin to tell you what that's all about. But I got the feeling it's indicative of the story. Now, reading this copy right here looks like it will be very easy. A slight off-white to the page colors. The text size is big enough, not tiny, not huge, but big enough to read. And there's my trade edition. It looks really good, and it is signed, and signed is always better. It's something that I'm glad I ordered. Now, let me take a look here real quick and read what this particular book is all about. So these books were originally Thomas Olde Heuvelt, international best-selling author from the Netherlands, his breakthrough novel Hex. So they're originally written in Dutch and then translated into English and other languages, I'm sure. But sometimes you think you can see things behind the fence, bad things, so it's better not to look. Lock Haven is a quiet little town in Washington State, and Bird Street is a special place. Those who live in this pretty little cul-de-sac on the edge of the woods are all successful, healthy, and happy. Their children are prodigies, well-mannered, and unnaturally smart. At least they are for 11 months of the year. In November, however, the darker days descend, bringing with them accidents, bad luck, conflict, and illness. For it is November that a stranger comes to Bird Street to collect a long-standing debt, because there is a price to be paid for the happiness and good fortune they enjoy for the rest of the year. A sacrifice must be made every November, without fail. And so it has been for over 100 years. To assuage their guilt, the residents of Bird Street choose carefully who will be taken into the woods. Usually, it's someone elderly or terminally ill who wishes to die with dignity and is content to be helped on their way. But this year, things don't go as planned. This year, events take a terrifying turn. Propulsive and haunting, Darker Days is a devastating modern take on the Faustian Pact, and begs the question, how far would you go for your own happiness? So his book's originally written in Dutch in the Netherlands, and I hope I'm getting all that stuff right, are often changed slightly. And I don't know if they're changed many times, but the books that we get in the United States are often set in the United States. So I don't know how that works. I don't think they're originally written that way. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like I remembered. I don't remember if it was Hex. I think it was Hex. It was originally set somewhere where the author is from, or somewhere over there, and the setting was changed to a United States city. And so I think perhaps, I'm thinking this might have been the same sort of a situation. And that's probably a tool that you get if a lot of your people that you're marketing a book for read a book. It feels like they might get into it better or easier if it's set somewhere they're familiar with. Now, I'm far from Washington, but I live in the same country, so I'm familiar with Washington. It's a long way from where I live. I live in Florida, so you can look on a map and figure out how far that is. But I think maybe it might help to sell more books in the countries that buy a lot of books if you change the setting, and it seems like that was the choice here. So it's translated into English. I'm thinking that the setting was changed also. It sounds like a fantastic story, and you can see why I wouldn't hesitate to buy this book. And I would probably, after reading Hex, feel very comfortable that Thomas Olde Heuvelt is an author that will deliver. So I'm looking forward to this one, Darker Days. I also told you I have Echo, and I've got to read Echo. I just got to. It sounds so good. It sounds fantastic. There's just so many books to read. Sometimes they get lost in the shuffle. And Darker Days and Echo are books that I intend to read within, let's say, within 2 months. How's that sound? Work for you? Works for me. Within 2 months. So mark my words, put this down. Within 2 months, I intend to read both of these books, and we can talk a little bit about what I thought, and you can tell me what you thought. I'll be listening. I'm listening. I am. With that being said, I can think of no more lies to tell, so thank you for your time. I do truly appreciate it, and say la vie, baby. Doo-doo.